Premiered on November 25th, 2009 with a general release on December 11th, 2009. This was the Disney Animation Studios' 49th feature and their first hand-drawn animated film in 5 years. After being hyped as a return for the Disney company's success in animation, it had a lukewarm box office success that nevertheless led to 3 Oscar nominations, a future attraction at the current Splash Mountain, and a strong fan base. It first hit home video on March 16th, 2010, and for the purpose of this podcast, we watched the inaugural Blu-ray release from 2010. Hi, I'm Justin, and across from me is Stella, and this is the discussion of Walt Disney's Princess and the Frog. Welcome to the discussion, everyone, and today we're continuing our talk on different... I'm forgetting how to even introduce these episodes, but...
It's been a while.
It's been a little bit of a while. But as we had planned previously, we're going to do Princess and the Frog today, which we did watch quite a while ago, but...
Decades ago.
It feels like decades ago.
I don't know, I wanted to watch it again, and you said no.
I didn't think we needed to rewatch it just for the podcast.
I do.
You've seen it a lot. I don't think
I know.
you need to see it more to get... I think you have all the information you'll need.
I don't.
Yeah, this was the 2009 movie that was their first hand-drawn animation movie they did in... At the time, it felt like a long time. Their last hand-drawn animation film was Home on the Range, but I guess it feels like a long time because their last real popular hand-drawn animation movie was probably Tarzan, back when the Renaissance ended during the 90s. So really we're talking about probably a decade since the last hand-drawn animation movie that people actually flooded to the theaters to see. And with Pixar and DreamWorks taking over with their computer animated films, Disney started making their own, like Meet the Robinsons. Chicken Run had come out before that. Chicken Little, not Chicken Run.
Little.
My
I
bad.
love that movie.
Chicken Run's the stop motion one. Chicken Little was 2005, and then Meet the Robinsons, and then Bolt.
Iconic.
You really like Chicken Little. We'll have to get to that because I have not seen that in a few years. And
I've seen it enough for a lifetime. My cousins would watch that constantly.
My expectations are low, but we'll get to it. I like Meet the Robinsons, and I've seen Bolt. I don't remember too much about it, but...
I think I've seen Meet the Robinsons, but I don't remember it.
I like Meet the Robinsons. I think it's a little underrated. I think that's where the true beginnings of the Renaissance, their second Renaissance of the 2010s began. Princess and the Frog was successful. It just wasn't as big of a success I think Disney was hoping for. And then Tangled came out a year later and made like way more money. And then Frozen came out.
I love them both.
Yeah. Well, then Frozen came out and kind of put both of these in the corner, like... people talked about.
Every single Disney movie in the corner.
And Frozen was the only thing people talked about for the next...
Still.
Yeah, still.
The only thing.
But I feel bad because Princess and the Frog there was a lot riding on it to make sure that if this movie does well, then we're going to have a lot of hand-drawn animation movies come back. Their original plan was they were going to do a hand-drawn animation film and then a computer animated film. And that was... I think that began with Bolt. And every other year they were going to do hand-drawn, and they were going to mix it up with doing computer animation, and they were going to do a film every year, one after the other, of 2 different styles. Mm-hmm. And then Princess and the Frog didn't do too well, but it wasn't like a failure, and certainly it was because the budget was so high. Tangled's budget was very high too, but made its money back.
Highest.
Yeah, I think it's
Fun
still
fact.
the most expensive Disney movie, regardless of... Frozen might have beat it, the second one. I know the first one didn't, but I think the second one might have actually had a higher production budget, but I'm not sure. We'll have to fact check that once we get to Tangled and Frozen. But
We already did Frozen 2.
we did Frozen 2, but I don't think they had the production budget released at the time. Because usually when the movies are in theaters, they don't say what the budget was, because they don't want analysts to start figuring out early on if the movie's making money or not, because then that sometimes can help tank it if the publicity's bad enough, but I don't know. I question that theory. But anyway, Princess and the Frog came out, wasn't too successful, but it was fine enough, and people were kind of ready for more princess movies, and then Tangled came out, made more money. A lot of people said it was because of the computer animation. And then Winnie the Pooh came out, and then it kind of tanked the whole thing, which I think that one had it even worse than Princess and the Frog. I think they put way too much pressure on Winnie the Pooh to do well, weirdly enough. But I also don't know how confident Disney really was about bringing back 2D animation, hand-drawn animation, especially since they had Winnie the Pooh go up against Deathly Hallows Part 2, the final Harry Potter movie.
Didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, so regardless of how good that movie would have been, or could have been, or is, it actually is a good movie. It's kind of an odd choice for a theatrical Disney Animation Studios release. No matter what, it seemed like they were trying hard, but at the same time, once they got the Winnie the Pooh and Princess and the Frog wasn't that successful, I think they were already giving up, which is too bad. There is a lot of effort in this movie, but I want to know how you first saw this movie, because you have a bigger history with it than I do. I never saw it when it first came out, but you did.
I was at somebody's house and I saw the end with... He has a name. I don't know what the villain's name is. Do they ever say it?
Dr. Vasilius or something like that?
Do they actually say it in there, though?
I don't know if they ever say it, but is that his name?
I don't know.
It's something like that.
But I saw the end, and I was like, ugh, this is scary. I don't think I saw it until, like, years after, and I don't even... Maybe we bought it first and just saw it? I don't remember, but that movie's so good.
Yeah, Dr. Facilier. That's what it was. I don't know. As far as what was I saying before that?
I don't know. You asked how I first saw it.
Oh yeah. No, I just don't know if they ever say his name or not. I guess I'd have to rewatch it to really
Like how
pay
the
attention to
beast
that.
is Adam.
Right. Or that's one where it's just completely unconfirmed. I still don't think that's ever been confirmed, but
How did you first see it?
I saw it with you the first time.
When?
When we watched it together the first time, a couple of years back. Not recently when we watched it for this episode. I've seen it twice, but both times I've seen it with you.
I don't remember watching it with you the first time.
Yeah, that was the only time I've ever seen it. I had seen parts of it, but I had never seen the whole movie.
Did you like it better, worse, or the same the first time versus the second?
I don't know. I feel like I felt the same way about it both times, which is I really want to like it, and
Well, you should.
I do. I mean, it's a good movie. I think there's parts of it that I get bored or lost in, and it's pretty much the same things that bothered me the second time watching it. I was able to nail it down a lot more, where I was like, oh, I really like these scenes, and then once we get to other parts of it, I'm like, okay, can we get this over with, because I'd like to get to the other stuff instead. Yeah, I don't know, it's a good movie, and I think it does what the early Renaissance movies did, which was, take a classic tale but add some different twists and turns to it, or modernize it as much as you can. And it seems like as we go through the decades, they more and more try to add more twists to the story, because these stories, they were well known back in the 30s and 50s, but now they're like really well known, so they really got to add something different to it. I don't think they could have made a movie called Princess and the Frog and just had the simplicity of she kisses the frog and he turns back into a prince, and leave it at that. Because, and I don't even know if that's how the whole original story goes, but it's the basics that everybody does know. So they had to add something to give it a little more of a twist.
I'm very shamed because I love this movie so much. But that whole time you're talking, I was trying to figure out how do they turn back. The whole reason they're trying to get him back to the friend for her to kiss him.
Mm-hmm.
But then she does, and then it's too late. Then what happened? How do they turn back?
Well, I thought it was just magic.
Don't they, like, they kiss each other.
Do they?
There's some weird, like, twist, like, haha, you're the princess of this.
Well, okay, so, and I it could be that, you know, it's been a while since we watched it, and maybe it's just bad memory.
It's always been confusing.
Well, and I was going to say,
like,
though, more than likely
like,
it's because...
too much of a stretch, like...
I have always had an issue with that part of the movie,
because even their original thing, they wanted... What are their names? The friend. They were trying to get back to her the whole time because she was the princess of the parade.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't work. But the other, whatever reason, did work.
What happened was, okay, so they don't turn... They just accept that they're frogs, and then they get married at the end, and then they both turn back into humans because she ends up being a princess by default since she married a prince, so then they turn into humans. And that's why. This whole part is what I've never really liked about the movie, which is the whole... It's almost like too complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't...
Especially when they add in, like, the time to it, because the time is only restricted to that one friend, because then the parade's over at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
But then they don't have a time limit after that. I'm like...
Right. Well, and I think it's a time limit then because she's only princess for like the day. She's the princess of the... Right, but what I'm saying is that that's why there is a time limit, but there technically isn't a time limit for the kiss. It's just that there's a time limit to her being a princess. I want to know is, can you sit a kid down in front of this movie and have them actually comprehend what's going on? And yeah, I guess you could say that about any kid's movie, really. Like Little Mermaid, did they fully understand why Ariel gets her voice taken away and such? I mean, or Beauty and the Beast, the fact that he needs to find someone he loves before the rose dies. I feel like stuff like that is more visually interpreted.
No, he needs somebody to love him back.
Well, see, I didn't even pay attention. No, I know. I mean that there's visual representations that are done better in those movies where this one kind of lacks that because there's a lot of explaining, but there's not like a lot of visual representations of what's going on and how we get to the climax and how we resolve everything.
And it's quick because that whole time they're like, oh, we need to change this back, and then it didn't work, and then suddenly they're like, oh, we're back, and then it's like fast forward a few years. I'm like,
yeah. I think too that I don't know, I just wish it wouldn't have... It doesn't even really focus on it too much because it's like exposition that's there to have this story make sense, but technically I guess you don't need to take it all in for the whole movie to make sense. Like, they kiss each other and they both become human at the end, and them becoming frogs between that time was just a scenario we had to go through. And if you want to really pay attention to all the extra stuff about, oh, there's that princess who's only princess for a day and you have to go and kiss her instead, I don't know. It's... I'm
going to give you a pop quiz on this movie. Are you ready?
Okay.
They all have one thing that they want. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What does Tiana want?
Tiana wants a restaurant.
What does Lottie want?
She wants a husband or a lover or...
Prince.
Yeah.
What does is it a crocodile or an alligator? Crocodile.
Well, a crocodile.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, no, it's an alligator. Yeah, no, because that's in the swamps, southern America, Louisiana, so that would be an alligator.
Huh.
And he wants to be in a band. I
Yeah.
remember that part.
What does the firefly want?
He wants to he wants to be a star, to be with that star, because he's in love with that star.
What's her name?
Evangeline or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know what the prince wants. He just wants to be rich, right?
Pretty much. He's kind of selfish.
And then it changed.
He's selfish and full of himself until he finds someone that he finds he's pleased to be around her, I guess, so then he wants to be with her. Because he's kind of a loner. He likes to just be by himself and do his own thing, but also he's very spoiled. He doesn't really know how to do most things, but he feels like he's a loner, despite the fact that he is kind of given everything.
I'm proud you passed. Lewis, that is the crocodile / alligator.
Alligator.
Shh. That's his name.
What's his name?
That's his name, Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis. No, I knew that. You didn't know that?
Well, I forgot for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so I like the characters. They're funny. We got a good cast of characters to go into the swamps. I don't really like when they turn into frogs. That's kind of boring. That's the part where I'm like, this goes on for too long. This was it's one of those things where when you saw the trailer, and they do the kiss, and then they both turn into frogs, and it's like, whoop, that's a twist on the story. That's real interesting. That's kind of funny. And then you kind of see the whole movie play out that way, and you're like, oh, it's a good idea, but they kind of don't know where to go with it. And maybe if that section was shorter, I guess, I don't know how you would have shortened it up. Maybe had one of them not be a frog for the majority of the film, because literally after the first act, they are both frogs for the rest of the movie. And
then they kind of like lose their personality, kind of, because her whole thing was like getting the restaurant, and now her whole thing is not being a frog.
like they've changed what they are going for, their wants and needs.
Not even that, but it's just like, how do we not be frogs? How do we become human?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to word that. How do we not be frogs?
How do we turn back?
Yeah.
Not just that they turn into frogs, but them traveling through the swamps isn't as interesting or fun as I would expect it to be.
It is.
Yeah. See, I just get very bored of that section.
They have the best songs during that time, though.
Well, and see, I think that's where we differ too, because you really like the music. I
like it so much, and is there one song you're just like, yeah? Or are all of them just like,
I just don't find any of them to be that memorable. Maybe it's just not my style, or maybe it's just, I just don't think there's...
It's not my style. I'm surprised I like this movie and these songs.
I just don't find any of the lyrics to be that memorable, and it's not anything you kind of sing home about. And I know that this isn't the same kind of music that you'd find in like The Lion King or The Little Mermaid. I mean, they're jazz tunes, and there's different forms of it throughout, and there's some slower paced songs, and there's like a love tune in it, but it's just a lot of it doesn't seem very memorable. I feel like that with Tangled too, because they have their one song, and it's poppy, it's enjoyable, but it's not, to me, very memorable. I don't know how they really judge that either. It's kind of, I feel like that's sort of biased to judge music in a movie, because it's really dependent on if you enjoy it or not, and if you find the lyrics memorable. But there's just some cases where I do, like Frozen. I find every one of those songs to be memorable. They have like 3 bangers in the first couple minutes.
Bangers.
Meanwhile, this movie, I just feel like throughout the whole thing, there's nothing I really want to go home and sing. And
Tangled, for some reason, I know it has a lot of songs, but I feel like there's only... I don't know why, every time I watch it, I feel like there's no songs in Tangled except like 2.
I don't feel like there's a lot of music in Tangled, actually. I feel like they sing that one song in the boat, and that's it. I don't remember really any other... I'd have to rewatch it, but I don't really remember any songs in that.
The opening one, where she talks about her day, and she just redoes things over and over.
Mm-hmm. I remember that, yeah.
Mother's Know Best one, and then the one in the boat.
See, they do have better songs.
The one in the bar about dreams, but like they do not have as many compared to other movies, do they?
I don't think so. I mean, especially compared to Frozen.
Princess and the Frog doesn't have that many either. But they do. I don't know.
I'd argue that that's the reason why this movie didn't do as well as Tangled or, you know, even Frozen if you want to compare, but I feel like those were a couple years apart in different circumstances. And, I mean, Princess and the Frog had Avatar to compete against at the time, so that probably really screwed it over. But I think a lot of it has to do with the music. If you have good music that you're going to sell a lot of records for, that are really memorable songs, you're going to...
People are probably thinking like you, like, oh, that's not my type.
Well, I don't even think it's about type of music. I'm saying that you got to have memorable songs that you're going to sing in the car and make you want to, like, see this movie over and over again, because it has a lot to do with it. I mean, you can go through all of the popular Disney films and compare them to the ones that are not as popular. Let's just say musicals. We'll not take in the adventure ones or the ones with the animals that don't have music. You know, we'll just say the ones that have songs and the ones that are more popular versus the ones that aren't as popular. And the one thing I often find is that collectively the songs from the movies that everyone likes and are good are better than the ones from the ones that people don't enjoy as much or go back to as much. I think there's a reason why, if you look at the numbers for each of these movies based on how much they made, and you just take into account how good their soundtracks are for each movie, it's like Frozen, I think, has the best of all of them, and they made the most money. Tangled, somewhat better, and Princess and the Frog had kind of the weakest, least memorable, and because a lot of people say it's because of the 2D animation. I don't think that's really fair. I think if Frozen was 2D animated, at least on the domestic level, just because of the songs, I think that would have done just as well as it did. But I think the songs have a lot to do with the movie's success. And I don't know, Princess and the Frog just kind of, I don't know. Even watching it twice, I still can't really think. I can think of them in my head and I can think of the moments, but I can't really think of the lyrics, which is crazy. Because
tell me a song.
I know the one that they sing at the beginning is like something like that.
What are the words? What are you saying?
I don't know what the words are. I just know that's how it opens.
I don't know what you're doing.
Because she's looking at the star and it's like, evening star. I know it's evening star, isn't it?
Well, I don't know the lyrics to that one.
And then there's the one that the firefly sings. And I don't remember how it goes really.
Oh my goodness.
And then there's the one at the end when they're singing and it's very jazzy, and I like that song, but I can't remember the lyrics. That's the thing, I can't, I'd have to like literally pull it up to remember, and this isn't just because it's been months. No, like after watching the thing I have to pull up the lyrics and the songs to remember how they went. I don't think they're bad. I think Randy Newman's I think he's a good composer. He's composed some good songs. He's made memorable songs for movies that people don't even realize, like Toy Story, sure. But we watched Meet the Parents. He made a kind of good song for that movie. I'm just saying, like, he can make memorable songs. He did a song for a movie called Cold Turkey, and that movie's very dumb and ridiculous, and I recommend if you just want to watch a dumb movie of Dick Van Dyke. But I still remember the opening song of that movie that he did, because his songs are memorable. I don't know what happened here. Like, everything seemed to have...
Maybe it was not in his element with the jazz stuff.
Maybe.
I feel like that really did throw everything off, though.
Just the jazz to it all?
Yeah. And, like, the different, like, culture, because for the most part, Disney movies are the same. They don't have different, like... I know they take place in different countries, but they are not like this.
True. This was the one that it tried probably the hardest to... Well, I mean, because you could... They've done other things before, like they did Hercules, which is Greek culture, but that's not like that's Greek music in it. Yeah. It's not like Pocahontas had native music to a point. I think they might have mixed some of the languages in there at times, but it's not like native. It definitely isn't. It's just of the time poppy kind of Disney music. And this one, they not only picked a culture, but they picked like a culture's music. You know, like jazz music's very popular in that culture. So it's like, it makes sense that would be the music, and that they have it in Louisiana, and all that stuff's really good. All of it, I think, works really well together. Mm-hmm. But it's just that, in the end, I don't find the music to be that memorable. Maybe a big part of it was Randy Newman. If they were going to make a movie where it was about that culture, in that place of that culture, with that music, maybe you should have picked someone from that culture to do the music. And I don't know how much Randy Newman incorporated like black artists into it, but maybe they should have just picked someone who is a black artist to do the music, because it maybe would have been better. It probably would have been better, because I don't know, I can think of just many music artists who are better than Randy Newman, and not, I mean, just across the board. I think the recent Disney movies have tried harder to kind of go outside the typical Disney route. Like Moana had Lin-Manuel Miranda do the music, which I thought the music in that was very good and memorable. I know you don't like that movie as much, but
your Moana is my Princess and the Frog.
We'll get to that.
Actually,
I don't know. I just feel like
I only remember 2 Moana songs.
We'll have to get to that. I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know what people's thoughts on Moana's music versus Princess and the Frog is, but I just look at straight up analytics, and you can see that Moana songs just did better. They were more popular than Princess and the Frog, but then I guess there's like a decade between that time. Maybe Princess and the Frog was really popular at the time. I don't remember.
Did better than Princess and the Frog in general.
Somewhat. You know what's funny is that Moana actually wasn't as big of a money maker as because Zootopia came out the same year. Zootopia made like $1 billion. I think Moana made like 500, 600 million, something like that.
But like the main movies that I hear people talk about, number 1 is Frozen, 2 is Moana, and then if you want to go like older movies, then it's like Lion King. Number like, oh, Moana, have you seen that? I was like, yes.
I think Moana had a lot just because it was recent.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what happens with these movies in a couple of years. I mean, sometimes you don't know, because like Hercules was not that popular in 97. I mean, it made money, but then it kind of was forgotten for a while, and now it's like come back, and it might even be bigger than some of the other Renaissance movies of the time. So certainly you never really know with time. I just know that Moana didn't make as much money as Frozen or even Zootopia, which is like crazy to me, because I agree, Moana's talked about more than even like Zootopia. And I feel like, just based on both time periods, I feel like Moana is talked about more than Princess and the Frog. I don't remember anybody talking about Princess and the Frog once it came out. When the trailers came out, I remember people talking about it. People were excited. But once the movie actually came out, it was kind of done for. And I guess Avatar came out, and maybe that's why no one talked about it after. But honestly, I don't even remember people talking about Avatar at the time. Maybe
I do. But very briefly. Like, oh, Avatar, and then it just
went away.
Yeah. Like, abruptly.
I don't know. I guess I wasn't so much... I didn't have as much of an internet presence at the time. But I feel like... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this movie deserved better for a lot of reasons. I think it should have been more popular. I think it deserved a better composer, even though some people like the music. I feel like if I think about the music, and especially being at like a Disney resort, like that music's never even like one of the songs that are played during the parades or anything, and it's obvious that like, I don't know, I feel like Disney didn't try to keep this one alive for too much longer after it came out. It's gained a bit of a resurgence, but probably because it is the only movie that has an African American princess, which is important, and I think because of that, the movie's gained a stronger fan base. And, I mean, it's not a bad movie. Like,
I feel like it didn't help that Tangled came out, and it just, like, had no chance.
Right. And it came out, like, right after.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you want to compare, I mean, we'll get to Tangled, but, like, I think it's important because I think a lot of people say it's because of the hand-drawn animation. I think there's also, I've heard like some people try to make arguments that it's because of the race, but I don't know, because I feel like there's so many movies that have people of other races that have done so well, but once again, that's kind of like a decade of time. I mean, I can't really compare the success of Black Panther to Princess and the Frog because there's like 10 years between that time. Who knows? But I know that Tangled, I just feel, especially in the first like 10 minutes, has a better story going for it than Princess and the Frog does. Because I think Tangled is just way more interesting. And
Tangled, she just wants to get out of a tower. Princess, I'm not bashing it, I love that movie. Princess and the Frog, she has been working her entire life to have a restaurant because that's what her dad wanted, and her dad is dead. Which is more compelling? I want to get out of a tower, or that?
Princess and the Frog should be more compelling, but like you said, the plot kind of changes because then she turns into a frog. And yeah, she's showing the skills of being like, you know, she has the skills to make her own restaurant, and it's like, I think that's a really compelling story about someone who is starting from the bottom, raising their own money. They're not immediately a prince or a princess, and they actually have to work to get to what they want. And you know, it's not just about saying, "Oh, I want this," like Little Mermaid. It's like, no, we have to work to get to this. That's like a more important story. But in the end, if you look at the two, one's way more simple, and one isn't as simple, especially once you start getting to like the second act, and then I think it loses focus. And I don't know. That's just comparing them, though, if you want to say that that's why Tangled did better, if it's because of music or a story. However, I do think the animation has a lot to do with it. I'm playing devil's advocate, but in the end, because I like to believe that people really want to see 2D animation, especially like I've made the argument that if Frozen was 2D animated, it still would have done well, but in the end, I think maybe it had a lot to do with it, just because this one wasn't computer animated.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if it was, it would have done way better, and if you would have changed nothing else, but I don't know. I just feel like it has a lot of other things that don't gel as well as some of the other better animated films. I just feel bad because I want to like this movie. I mean, it's made by two of the, to me, the best directors from the Disney Animation Studios. They made Little Mermaid. They made Great Mouse Detective, and they made Hercules. I love Hercules.
Wow.
And they made Treasure Planet, which is, I think, pretty underrated. And they
never seen it.
also made Moana. So, like, they have made some awesome movies in the last, like, 30 years. They have a long career with Disney. But to me, this is my least favorite of their movies. I don't know. Maybe they should have gotten a little more goofier with it like they did with Hercules, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody would be begging for that. I don't know.
What is your favorite part of this movie? Favorite and least favorite?
My least favorite? Well, you know what my favorite part is.
What?
I like Lewis in general. He is my favorite part. I love that quick joke when he's trying to join that band on the steamboat. And he starts playing it, and he hops out because everyone's screaming at him. And then, you know, you think that's it. Like, he's hopping out and everyone's screaming, freaking out. And all of a sudden, all these gunshots start coming out of the steamboat because you're like, right, because it's Louisiana. And I'm like, that is one of the funniest things that Disney has ever done.
It's dark.
Like, that is hilarious. They could have just ended it where they did because I'm like, that was already pretty funny. But with the gunshots, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, I'm so glad they did that. It's so ballsy.
What's your least favorite?
I don't know. I don't really have a least favorite. I just get kind of annoyed when I like the characters, but we also do a lot of like running into characters and they don't progress the plot at all. Like the Firefly. I'm not saying I don't like the Firefly. I'm just saying it doesn't help it go anywhere.
Choose your words wisely.
Same with Mama Odie, when we go meet Mama Odie. And I know she kind of has to explain everything in a way, but I feel like she just kind of dips in and dips out, and that's like it. And it's just kind of a weird, like, I don't know. I feel like you could have just given that stuff to the Firefly maybe, but I don't know. It just seemed like there were a lot of extra characters that I enjoyed, but we didn't really need to keep doing the whole, you know, we take one step and we meet this character, and then...
You don't like the frog hunters?
I don't even remember the frog hunters. So I do kind of remember them, but...
look like of mice and men. That's what they remind me of.
Oh, yeah. Just, like, really hickish people. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that part as much.
One's a little one and one's a big one.
Do you think they were trying to do of mice and men there? Like, do you wish we could have gotten more of their storyline?
To be honest, yes. Yeah.
Do you like? I like the villain. I think the villain and the visuals with the villain is the best part.
I think it is too much at the end. They're freaky when they have their... What are they? They're not ghosts. They're straight up like souls or something.
They're like voodoo dolls. It's all voodoo culture.
It freaks me out.
Are you ready?
No, that's scary.
I remember that part.
It's scary.
I like that part. That, like, some of the visuals with him is some of the coolest stuff. Like, I kind of said this with Tarzan, but we're missing out on so much, like, 2D animation progression, because, like, some of the stuff they do with his, like, face and the colors and the visuals is like, you couldn't get nearly as good of stuff like that in computer animation. I haven't seen it yet. We can probably do it, but...
You remembered another song.
I rememred Dr. Facilier, because that part is creepy. And I remember when we were watching, I said I love about that scene at the end, because he doesn't... Because he's supposed to do something, and I forget what exactly it is, but he's got to do it by, like, midnight. And he misses his time.
Which
like
one? Him?
Dr. Facilier. Like, he has to do something, and since he doesn't do it by a certain time, like, the souls can take him, and they get to work quick. It's not like a lot of build-up or, like, spooky, like, ooh. No, it's just like, and they're like there, and it just happens quick.
Grave.
And I'm like, that is so freaky, because it just happens so quick. Like, there's just no waiting around, no making, like, building up to this creepiness. No, it's just like right here, right now.
They're mad at him because he made a deal with them, and was like, which he made a deal with those other two. Naveen, I don't remember his buddy. Remember? And his buddy was pretending to be him, and all that didn't work out, and that's why it came and bit him, because they were using them.
Right.
And it didn't work.
God, I forgot about the whole part where that guy turns into, like, him for a while, and...
What is his name?
That really big guy who looks like a monkey.
Yeah, does he have a name?
I'm sure he has a very memorable, lovable name.
Oh, okay. Something.
I don't know. I mean, there's some of the other characters I like John Goodman's character, because I like John Goodman, I guess. And that friend of hers is really funny. Like, she is really obnoxious and different from...
You remember her line? Is it Lawrence?
Oh, I remember. I'm sweating like a sinner at church.
I love it.
Just very
she
southern
says it
and
so
very
quick.
I love it. I do love that character.
Like, that boy is trying to dance with her, and she's like, when a lady means, or what did she say? She's like, they really mean not ever. She's like, when a lady means later, it means not ever. Yeah. I
don't remember exactly.
It's funny.
She had a very funny voice. I enjoyed her.
I wonder if that's actually her voice.
I thought the actress who did that voice, let me look it up, because I thought we knew who it was. Maybe not. Okay, I don't know who this is at all. Her name is apparently, is it Jennifer Cody? Is that right? I don't know who that is really at all, though.
Is she in anything else?
No, it doesn't, like, list anything else for her, but...
Does she look like her voice would be like that?
There wasn't a picture associated.
Oof. She's just non-existent.
That's weird. So she's barely done, like, any roles, I guess? Maybe the
I have a picture. I have a picture.
Oh. Yeah, she looks like she'd be like that. She looks like she would have that kind of voice. Or she could have that kind of energy. I don't know. I like, too, that they made the prince more interesting, because up until this point, I don't think any of the animated movies that were about princesses had interesting princes to go along with it.
Suck. The only ones I remember are the Beast, obviously. And then probably Aladdin, because it's called Aladdin. It's not called Jasmine.
Yeah.
Then Eric, but he even.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them, they don't say, like, anything.
I think they didn't try too hard in the past. And then, like, some of the Renaissance ones, there wasn't, I don't know, I guess there wasn't, like, a ton of main princes besides, like you said, Eric and Beast. And Beast is very interesting, obviously, because that was just a very good movie.
The other one's Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella.
Yeah, like those old
ones.
And
for...
They're not interesting at all.
2 seconds.
This one, they made him very funny, and I feel like this ended up becoming a trope with their later ones because Flynn Rider was very kind of silly too, and then especially with Frozen, like both of those guys, Kristoff is very silly. This one was the only one that he was silly and he was kind of dumb at times, but he was also very suave and like you were like, oh yeah, I'm kind of like, this guy's kind of like, it's not like a fake kind of suaveness where everyone's like as if, like, no, everyone's actually into him, and it makes sense.
Like, well, they don't know that, but like absolutely nothing going for him.
Right, they don't know he's a doofus.
He doesn't have money. He's just an idiot. He can't do anything for himself.
But for the most part, there's a big chance no one's gonna care. He kind of is like the legit Gaston, because Gaston kind of was making fun of the prince trope, where like they're very suave and like wonderful, but he was a jerk. He was very suave and he was a jerk. But this one, he was kind of like Gaston, but he was actually kind and nice and not a jerk, but still very suave, but also a bit of a doofus at times because he legitly just never really, like you said, worked. Yeah. And it makes sense that the only one who maybe doesn't accept his advances as much as Tiana, because she knows what it is to actually put some work in. I don't know, we kind of discussed everything. I had made bullet points, but you helped get through all of them very easily.
Yeah, see how much I can talk when I care about the movie more? I know, that sounds bad. I don't care about the other ones. Black Cauldron, no. But I love this movie so much.
Yeah, and
imagine how much I'm going to say for Tangled and Beauty and the Beast.
Like I said, I like
Tarzan, Mulan.
We did Tarzan.
Hercules.
We did Tarzan. I like this movie, but
1 out of 10.
I don't know, probably 7.
Oh, that's higher than I thought.
Well, I mean, no, I don't hate it. I know I kind of made some complaints about it, but I think it's weird because I feel like that's what's unfair about this Disney podcast is I'm not gonna completely dig into all the automatically good things about Disney movies. Like, yes, they have a good story. Yes, it has a good like this and a good that.
Black Cauldron does not.
Yeah, like that's when we criticize it. I'm criticizing it for what other Disney movies have that this one doesn't. Like what I expect out of the general Disney movie. This one has a good story. I think it gets a little messy in the middle act, and I mentioned how I didn't like how it gets a little too confusing, but it's still interesting. And for a story like this, where I don't know if Princess and the Frog really had more, the original tale had more going for it than like Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast, because other ones, let's just say, like those movies had been interpreted many times before and after, whereas Princess and the Frog, I feel like I haven't seen many interpretations done, or have heard of any interpretations done. So it was probably tough to adapt to begin with for a feature length, but it's good. And it's just not one I'd go back to a lot because I don't find the music to be that compelling.
Go back to it a lot.
I will. I mean, I would never not watch it again. I like it. And like I said, I like the characters. And I mean, the characters are getting a ride at Disney World, so it's like you'll get the...
we haven't gone yet, so we're waiting until that's done, right?
I don't know. I'd like you to ride the original Splash Mountain.
Well, guess we gotta go twice.
We can. I think Splash Mountain's still gonna... I think they're changing both of them, actually. So both coasts, we'd have to go to one of them, but we might not have enough time. We can always watch it on YouTube, I guess. But I love the original Splash Mountain a lot. I don't mind that they're changing it though, because it's like, you know, it's gonna be essentially the same ride, but it's gonna incorporate the Princess and the Frog characters, which they probably maybe they fit better with that setting anyway. Because I don't know if the Song of the South characters do as much. I don't know if they were part of the swamp, because that Splash Mountain's a little more swampy anyway. I don't know if they were a swampy character. I guess they kind of were, because that movie took place in the South. I don't know. I've never seen Song of the South. Most people only know about those characters because of Splash Mountain. I think most people think those characters came from Splash Mountain and not from a movie that nobody watches today because it's awful.
Inappropriate.
Racist?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm glad that they're changing it to Princess and the Frog. They're keeping the ride, but they're going to add new things to it, and probably a more interesting story than just, singing Zippity-Doo-Dah, which is a good song. It's a banger.
It's not.
It's a hit.
It's annoying.
It's not annoying
Annoying.
It's a Small World after all.
That
Zippity-Doo-Dah is
one's
very
annoying,
good. What do you give this movie out of 10?
100.
100.
8.5.
It's not much higher than mine.
That's a whole 1.5 points higher.
I don't know if you have anything else to say, but that's pretty much, I think we got everything I wanted to say about it out.
Everybody in the world worked together to make this movie more popular.
It's
the end.
I think it's already kind of going up again in popularity.
They heard my message.
Yeah. The one you just delivered now, they
I've
heard
been
it previously.
delivering it for years.
So we were going to do the randomizer, but I was thinking of lying and saying we did the randomizer, but no, I'm just going to tell the truth.
Wait, what?
Because we were going to say that Ralph Breaks the Internet was the winner of the randomizer, but then I was like, nah, I'll just tell the truth.
Oh, because we watched it?
Right. Well, previously we were going to change the rules a little, because they re-released a couple of the Disney movies in theaters for like a month-long thing, but then COVID happened and everything kind of got screwed up, so we didn't do that. So we were going to break the rules for that, not do the randomizer.
Technically, we broke the rules very first.
Yeah, because we
didn't randomize it. We did Frozen 2.
We did Snow White, and then we did the most recent movie.
Yeah.
We did the oldest, and then the most recent. Then everything was going to be random.
Next is Tangled.
No.
Yes.
No. You got lucky that they did Princess and the Frog. Maybe I'll get lucky, and I'll pick a movie I want to watch, like Oliver and Company.
I don't want to watch that again. We watched it recently.
Well, I watched Princess and the Frog recently, and I rewatched it. And I watched Tangled recently. We saw that in theaters. A long time. That was before there was another... That's probably confusing. There was 2 different sets of re-releases. One when we weren't doing the podcast, and one recently during COVID that got screwed up.
Recently.
Yeah.
$5. I will Vimeo, PayPal.
Venmo.
I am an old lady. No, that is one though too. Vimeo.
Vimeo is a video site.
$5 to whoever knows what that's from, because it's from a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
recently.
Yeah.
And also, she doesn't know what Venmo is even, or pronounce it, so I don't know how she's going to get you your money.
To be determined.
But yeah, we're breaking the randomizer just because we really wanted to watch it since it was on Netflix, so we watched Ralph Breaks the Internet, and we will be doing that one next. Plus, I think it's about time, because do you know that Ralph Breaks the Internet actually has a bit of a polarizing reception? Do you know that a lot of people online, since its release, actually don't like the movie too much? Yeah.
I should probably watch the first one. I've seen the second one twice now.
But we will talk about the second one next time we're on the show, and then we'll go back to the randomizer. But for now, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time when you wish upon a star.
Time for the kind of magic only Disney can bring to life.
Go to bed!
This holiday season,
My daddy never lost sight of what was really important.
And neither will I.
it's time to believe.
You can do anything you set your mind to.
Disney's The Princess and the Frog, rated G.